Congratulations. Oh, you have one more. Just testing you.
I'd like to take that one off notice, please.
Oh, okay. House Bill 978 has been taken off notice. Number 12.
Which is Representative Van Huss.
Okay. Representative Van Huss, you're recognized on House Bill 587.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 587 has an amendment that makes the bill. Reference is 5453.
Is there a motion on the bill? Motion has been made. Is there a second? Motion has been made and it's been properly seconded.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill says that no employee or funds of the state or any county or municipality of this state may be used to infringe the free exercise of all rights guaranteed by the Constitution of Tennessee concerning firearms, firearm accessories, or magazines of a certain size. I will give an example of where this bill would come into play. If this bill were to become law and the federal government bans AR-15s, then the federal government would have to use federal agencies to come in and enforce this law. They could not use Tennessee law enforcement or Tennessee funds to enforce a law that the Tennessee courts deem as unconstitutional according to the Tennessee Constitution.
Any questions? We had the amendment. Representative Dennis.
I'm sorry, have we moved the amendment?
We have.
Does the sponsor have an amendment on the bill that he wishes to put on the bill?
Yes, sir. Amendment 5453.
Can you explain briefly exactly what the amendment does?
Yes, sir. I just did.
Okay. Motion on
the amendment makes the bill.
Discussion.
Motion's been made on the amendment. Is there a second? Motion's been made and properly seconded. Representative Dennis, you're recognized.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate the intent of the bill, and I worked with Representative Faison on a similar bill on a different issue, but a bill that specifically prohibited the state from spending resources on a specific identified federal statute and the enforcement of in a certain way. My problem with the bill as it's filed, and the reason I probably can't support it the way it is because it's exceptionally broad. We don't have a specific federal statute that's been passed that says we are not going to enforce that. What your bill does is unfortunately it's extremely ambiguous because it says it covers a host of different things that may or not be unconstitutional the way it's drafted, and says we're not going to spend money on that. In my opinion, I think it's a very worthy and needed procedure to do what you're talking about, for us to say we're not going to enforce, or we're not going to spend state dollars and state resources enforcing federal statutes that we don't agree with. The problem is your bill doesn't address a specific federal statute. It's so broad it addresses a host of things that may or may not even be really ascertainable. So you've got one law enforcement officer, one department or one branch of government saying, we think this is unconstitutional, so we're not going to spend resources here. You've got another that says, well, we'd like to do this, and this is probably good policy, but we can't because this statute's ambiguous. So in my opinion, if we're not specifically identifying the federal statute or the federal regulation that we are not going to spend funds on, it results in a statute for us that's too ambiguous to really be enforceable. So for that reason, I probably can't support your bill the way it is. Representative Faison just had one the same way, and it died for lack of a motion and did something very similar to your bill. I was certainly open to sending that. Basically, I was open to sending that bill to summer study myself because I want to wait and see what the feds are going to do. I don't want to kill it because I think it's a good policy and good issue, but I want to see what action the federal government is going to take and be much more targeted in our approach on this. So your bill's a good shotgun approach. I prefer more of a rifle shot and identifying specific statutes. But I appreciate the intent. I think it's very much needed. Just can't support it in the form that you've got it here. Thank you.
Representative Carter, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, Representative Dennis, let's look at this because I look at it completely differently. no employee of the state or any county or municipality of the state may infringe the free exercise of all rights guaranteed by the Tennessee Constitution. How can you be more specific than that? If it's not in the Tennessee Constitution, it's not protected. You're talking about federal laws. This doesn't mention federal law. It only talks about representatives acting under color of law, breaching our Constitution. What could possibly be unconstitutional about that? It's already the law by virtue of its Constitution, period. So this, if the feds pass a rule that says they're going to come and do something, this law does not affect it, other than to say the state of Tennessee will not fund nor participate in that process. And so for that reason, at least in my mind, it's very, very specific as opposed to general. And that's why I like Jeremy Faison's bill, but that's why I didn't move it, because it bothered me about the federal. I knew this bill was coming, and I was in full support of it. And if I've messed up, my apologies to both Jeremy and you. But this is very specific. This is already, in essence, the law. We cannot go out and violate the constitutional rights of our citizens now. So I guess I look at it a little differently in that it is very specific. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Dennis, you're recognized.
I apologize. I misspoke. I missed the wording of the amendment there, and you're absolutely correct. This is in regards to the Tennessee Constitution. However, as Representative Carter stated, this is with the amendment, this bill is just codifying what is already existing law and basic, the basic fundamental constitutional law, in that the state can't take action that violates the rights of the Constitution. If that's all it does is what's in this amendment, it doesn't do anything. I don't know why we put this into the code if it doesn't actually do anything. Now, going back to the issue argument about it being clear, who gets to make the determination about whether dollars are being spent to infringe the free exercise of these rights? Is it the individual department? Is it the commissioner? Or is it the Supreme Court that gets to make those decisions? That's a problem, a potential problem I see with the bill. I hope that's resolved, because I don't know that I want a commissioner out there for working for an administration deciding that, regardless of what the legislature said, that we think this is unconstitutional under our state constitution, so we're not going to enforce what the legislature told us to do and how they budgeted money. That I still think you've got some real ambiguity issues here, and the amendment doesn't do, like I say, if it codifies what it is 200 years of existing law, that we can't do anything that violates the Constitution, then I don't see with the amendment it does a whole lot.
Representative Carter, you're recognized.
Oh, never mind.
Well, clearly the same people that are making the decision to spend money today will make decisions to spend money later. And rather than a sheriff or another person having to make these decisions based on a lack of training in constitutional law, there'll be a clear statute stating that they can't. And so to me, it's clearly necessary, and the same people we trust to spend millions and billions of dollars will be the ones we trust now if they make a decision not to. Quo warranto action can be brought. Anything can be brought to move it along, or an injunction can be brought to stop it. So to me, it's as narrow a decision as we can make under the circumstances, but I think we need to be clear and pass this law concerning this matter. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Stewart, you're recognized.
Yeah, my concern about this is I just can't. I appreciate your bill, and I've talked to you not about this bill but about other bills, and obviously I know that this is brought with a good intent. My concern is I can't see any benefit that comes from this, because we already have our state constitution, and over many years of case law, the application of that state constitution to federal action has been memorialized many times. I worry that this will be viewed as changing the law in that regard, and all it can possibly do, if it does anything, as amended. You started out with a different bill, and I know how it works. We make amendments. We try to. My concern is, as amended, what this will do, it'll call into question all those years of case law. There's a pretty well-established idea that when we make statements, we're assumed to know everything that's already happened that our courts have said. I'm worried that a judge will look at this and think we're creating some sort of new right or new cause of action, and if that's the case, that's not where we need to be going, because really what we're doing is we're just making it, I think, unnecessarily complex for our federal and state governments to interact with each other. I think our courts have already worked through all of that pretty extensively, and that's why we have them. I think we should leave it to the other branch of government and really not get in this business at all. But appreciate you bringing the bill. I just wanted to explain why I'm opposed to it.
Representative Van Huss.
Thank you, representatives, for your concern. I do believe that this bill does, in fact, very simple, says that employees or funds may not be used to enforce laws that the federal government passes that we believe to be unconstitutional according to our Constitution. I am at the will of the committee. You folks are here to push forward good bills and stop bad bills, and so I am at the will of the committee.
Any other questions? Representative Womack.
Representative Van Huss, I like your bill, and the reason I think it's necessary, along with what Judge Carter was saying, we have a president who's issuing executive orders and treating them as federal law. Executive orders have no teeth when it comes to federal law. They are strictly orders to carry out laws already passed by Congress. And as he passes these executive orders upon the states, it's very easy to say for us as a state, especially if it's in the coded language, no, we're not going to enforce that by paying for it. It's not a federal law. And I think this is a great mechanism to shut the President of the United States off and let him know that we're not going to tolerate executive orders as he declares them as edicts upon the people and violate our rights in the Second Amendment. So thank you for bringing this.
Any other questions? We're voting on the amendment. All those in favor of amendment, the First Amendment to House Bill 587, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. We're back on the bill as amended. Any questions on the bill as amended?
I understood the amendment made the bill.
Yes, sir.
So the amendment is the bill.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Any questions on the bill as amended? All those in favor of sending the bill to full committee signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. The noes have it. Sorry.
Oh, don't worry.
You're recognized on